you are looking for actionable strategies to help make your life just a little bit easier, more stress-free, maybe a little bit more efficient in some of your practices, you're in the right place.
Coffee on the counter, calendar in view, got a room full of futures and a plan that's tried and true. I've done the late nights, I felt the burnout. Now I choose what feeds me and still brings the best out. Sustainable teaching, I can lead and still be breathing. Strong and steady, I'm increasing. Sustainable teaching, that's in the rhythm of my freedom. This is how I start my day believing.
Hey everyone, my name is Ray Hewer, and you are listening to the Sustainable Teaching Podcast. We have who I feel like is some of my biggest edu celebrity crushes of all time on the pod. I have to say, I vividly remember, and I feel like this could have been 20 years ago or last week, but I vividly remember sitting in an Indiana auditorium with this keynote where he was teaching us all about bottle flipping. And I was like, this guy's the coolest guy ever. Now he's on the podcast. Denis Sheeran, how you doing?
Well, excellent. Thank you. I'm glad that at least one moment of my time in Indiana was memorable for someone.
It's so funny. We were both there for an event, and I couldn't even tell you where we were in Indiana or why we were there, but yeah, it was super cool. I had been following you on social media at that time. It was Twitter back in the day, and
Still is, by the way. Yeah.
I mean, it's there's so much now, but at the time I remember sitting, I could tell you exactly where I was sitting watching your keynote. And I was like, this guy's the coolest dude ever. He's so smart. He's written so many books, and I get to meet him. It was so killer.
Well, thank you for setting me up, I guess, because it's exciting to be able to get to share anything that I have to say with anybody that and realize that like maybe we connect and maybe we actually have something in common. And I think it was if I'm not mistaken, it was the Indiana summer of e-learning summer session, right? That one. And I remember coming out and walking around the audience and kind of talking to people during the keynote. And someone said later, it's like, nobody ever keynotes and walks through the audience. I'm like, people, you're supposed to talk to people, aren't you? So it's, I'm glad to be back here talking to you again.
I'm so impressed that you know what event we were at, because you speak all over the place and you have 12,000 hats that you wear. But I also want to point out that if it was e-learning, this was pre-COVID. We connected, I mean, again, I don't even know what year it was, but I think it was 2017,
yeah, I think so.
2018 maybe. It was way before e-learning was e-learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I vividly remember you being like, I'm doing a keynote on bottle flipping because it's relevant, but next year it'll be something else. And you're always talking about content being relevant, specifically math, but a lot of other things. So I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Every time you text me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so cool. Denis has my phone number.
Well, let's get running on this, because I'm super interested to hear what you have to say about just some of the thoughts that have been churning around in my head lately, because this is one of the best parts about both this podcast, our relationship over time, and honestly, the connected learning space that we're all in, is that it just really is collaborative. We throw something out, you throw something out, and suddenly we've got something better because we talked about it. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, amazing. For our community here that may not be familiar with you, maybe they weren't able to see all your keynotes that you've been able to do and all the support they're able to provide. Do you mind sharing a bit about what you do in education?
No, I don't mind sharing at all. Currently, my main gig is that I am an assistant teaching professor at Montclair State University. I teach in our pre-service educator program, and I teach these new, young, soon-to-be teachers what it's like to be in the realm of teaching, not just how to understand math and how to deconstruct your understanding of fractions that you learned in third grade, but really what it's like to think about how I can communicate that with a kid who doesn't have any understanding of it at all. And it's a great time to help people really truly learn what it's going to be like to be in the teaching field, and not just go over math skills with them again. I also still do a lot of professional development with teachers. I travel around. Since COVID, the keynoting's run down a little bit because everybody stopped traveling to do stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shift. And I shifted to focusing on building relationships with school districts and being able to spend my time instead 3, 5, 10 days a year with a group of teachers and building and developing and growing and being able to support them that way. So I do that. And every now and then I travel around a little bit. I'm headed to New Mexico next week to speak at the mid-school math conference and be out there. I've never been to New Mexico since my first time out there, so that's kind of exciting.
I love it. Anything that like gets me out of my element and, in a new community, I love. Dennis, you've done so many things. You didn't even mention your books. And I know that you have some popular ones. Obviously, we can reference those later as resources for our community, but do you mind giving just a little highlight? I know there's a lot of places you can grab those.
Yeah, sure. I started writing a blog when I started realizing that I needed to just blurt a little bit. And so that kind of came together and coagulated into my first book, which is Instant Relevance. I mentioned a little bit about that before. The subtitle of that is Using Today's Experiences to Teach Tomorrow's Lessons. And that idea that things are so fleeting in the mind of our kids, even at minimum, I just had kids doing an entire order of operations activity on using the numbers 6 and 7, because that's going to be gone like next week, but I'm going to do it now, right? So that was my first one, trying to connect what's relevant now to how we can teach now and keep us both thoughtful and creative, but also open-minded at the time instead of closed-minded about our classrooms. My second book is called Hacking Mathematics. That's 10 problems that need solving. And it's not like how to teach algebra better. It's more like how to, again, communicate with kids or find a group of teachers who can support you or talk to parents and help your math community grow. Those are both available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. Typically, that's where you find them. Or my website, which is just DenisSheeran.com. You can find me there.
I love it. Obviously, we will share so many ways you can connect with Dennis here at the end of the episode. But of course, if you need to connect with him, I have his cell phone number. So just message me or someone on the team will get you connected. Dennis, there's so many different things we'll be able to talk about in education. But obviously here on the pod, we're really focused on sustainable teaching practice, things that allow us as leaders, as paraprofessionals, as teachers in this whole education ecosystem, how we can focus our work to be really efficient and effective with our students. So we're going to get into that strategy here in a second. Stick with us. This episode is brought to you by the Teachers Deserve It Blueprint, a done-for-you system for building a classroom that works without burnout. If you're tired of piecing it together on your own, this is your framework. See what's inside at teachersdeserveit.com. Dennis, I am so confident that between travel, working with future educators, and the schools that you're working with currently, you have found so many practices that have helped educators in our school ecosystem be more efficient and effective, make it home for dinner, be able to have some healthy routines as they continue forward. What comes to mind as a routine either you like to share or you currently do day to day that helps you with this sustainability concept?
Well, what's funny is that a lot of the things that I have found have come to me by accident, mostly out of necessity, because all of a sudden I've fallen behind, or I feel like I've fallen behind, and then I've wound up too many things, and I need to stop and reset and kind of figure out what needs to happen. And as a teacher, it's really hard because our minds are always on teaching. We're always on kids. We're always on things. And I wrote a book about, hey, how can you pay attention to what happened outside today and bring it to school tomorrow? Pretty much telling people, don't stop thinking about teaching. And I kind of feel bad about that. But at the same time, I realize how that's how a lot of us are truly wired. And so one of the biggest things for me was to make a conscious effort to stop that. Actually, to just stop for a minute. And it became clear to me when I was a district supervisor. I was a supervisor at a couple of different districts in New Jersey from 2012 to 2019. And that's at 2019, by the way, July 2019 was a great time to leave public education. I'll be honest, like 6 months later, COVID hit and I didn't have to do it. But I left to pursue my doctorate. And at the same time, during that window of being a school leader, I recognized how much of a burden I could be on teachers. And so I started to make some intentional decisions about how not to be First, simple things like I would never send a downward, if you will, email after the end of the school day. You would never hear from me after the end of the school day about anything that required your attention. You could send me something if you wanted. Maybe I'll look at it if I'm not going to. You could always feel willing to, but also recognize that I might not look at that. And I tried to make sure that we were shutting down the after school presence intentionally. And that was mirrored with what I was trying to calculate with teachers too, in the concept of homework. Like, are we really supposed to assign homework to kids? What are we doing when we're capturing their afternoon time and saying that belongs to me now, right? And the feelings that you had about hating getting an email from me that said, pay attention to this so that you're ready for this by tomorrow, we were doing that too, right? And to connect those release points and just find a way to stop literally some of the things that I was doing and say, I need to take a break for myself. I need to give someone else a break from that. And then to find other times during the day, I'm just piggybacking here a little bit, where we're not always self-aware, to be perfectly honest. We just go. And then at the end of the day, we're like, I'm tired. Why? I think the awareness that not everything that I was doing was an emergency became clear. And that not everything that I was doing had to be done quickly. And it had to be done immediately. And the next piece of information or question or thing that came to me didn't have to suddenly take priority over what I was doing. And it allowed me to conscientiously form those to-do lists, organize them a little bit better, prioritize, and not feel bad about prioritizing or telling someone, that's a great question. I'll get to that in a little bit. I'm currently working on something else. It gave me some peace in that settle, breathe deep, and realize you can work at your pace at a comfort spot without driving yourself insane.
You know, it's so funny, this last note that you made about not everything's an emergency. It's, you know, in education, everything feels like an emergency. And I don't know if that was just a me thing, if it was just a group of educator thing, or if it's an everyone thing. But I have recently come across a TikTok that has come up like 2 or 3 times. I feel like it's a sign from God, right? It's like, it says something along the lines where it's like urgency is a choice. Where it's like when you're rushing out of the house, or for me specifically, like every morning I'm rushing to get the dogs out to go to the bathroom before I leave, or, you know, I'm rushing to the kitchen to go make something so that I can go into the next thing. And this concept of thinking like urgency is a choice. And can I choose to slow down? And does those small little milliseconds of choosing to slow down and maybe still going and doing what I want, but not doing it with as much urgency, it is incredible how it changes your mindset.
It does. And I think you're right in recognizing that it's pretty much an across the board thing. We've set up a culture of urgency. And I feel like you just titled my next book. We've really set up a culture of urgency in the idea that students are behind. So what do you have to do to catch up? You have to speed up. And who's going to have to lead that speeding up? Us, which means we have to be prepared to speed up and be prepared in advance to help kids speed up. So everything's speeding up to get to this point. And if we're not prepared, then we're falling behind. And if we're behind and they're behind, we have to speed up. And it's constantly this culture of urgency that we have no choice over. And so we have more micro level choice in that, right? Like, I don't need to drive 85 miles an hour to work. To be perfectly honest, do I really want to get there that soon? Right? Like, no, maybe not, but am I trying to find parking? Is that my thing? You're like, what do I need to do? Like, all these things are urgent. And so suddenly I find myself driving fast and getting mad in the car at someone who isn't. Or I find myself trying to get something done and getting mad at somebody who's in my way. And there's no reason for that, especially when I am the person who's in my own way. Suddenly I'm mad at myself for not doing something sooner. And then I'm working morning to night. And I think that an intentional choice to choose what to be urgent about is really important. I think you're right. It is a choice. This is something that I do want to give my attention to, and I think I need to finish quickly. Let me focus on that. And if it means separate and tell some other people, my family maybe, I need to separate a little bit and get this thing done. They've always understood. And I don't think that I ever need to feel bad about asking for that, but I always kind of do, because to be honest, my family, my dog, all the things that need my attention, they're also urgent to me, right?
So I
So
wonder, every podcast episode, we obviously feature it on our blog. And with that, we also work to create a relevant resource. It could be a download or in like an interactive something that an educator, a paraprofessional, a classroom teacher, an administrator could literally click, download, and apply. And something I'm curious about, again, I'm just brainstorming because I don't know what will come of our conversation, but is there a way that we can help ourselves, help one another qualify if something really is needing that urgency, or if taking even a few moments or putting it to the side is okay? Because I feel like that choice is actually the hard part. It's once the choice is made, even again, my stupid example of getting the dogs outside in the morning is when I think about this the most recently, is like, it does not matter if I get them out in this millisecond or in 10 seconds. The task is still going to be accomplished to the same level, but my frustration level will be different. I need to make a choice on which one I'm going to choose for myself.
when it comes to like objectively quantifying that, I think we all have our own priorities, and we all have those things that we do want to place our own sense of urgency on. And there's a couple of different things that I've seen implemented in interesting ways. We as teachers have we have a way of appropriating tools that weren't intended for something to our advantage, right? We find a way to use this thing, like back in the day when Flipgrid was still alive, it was intended to just be a way to collect a couple of videos for kids. But suddenly people were using it as a way to assess students because they could verbalize for kids who couldn't speak. Or I was sharing and recording, just using it as a recording tool to make videos that I was going to post on YouTube because it had more editing features at the time, right? So we've all found a way to appropriate tools. Some of those tools, basic ones, like literally my Google Calendar. In some ways, I have set up a way to use my calendars and my reminders set to push things that are of less priority away, but not forget about them. And to build in spaces in my regular schedule that this is what this time is for. Don't give it to anything else. One of the first times I really thought about that was when I was talking to my dissertation chair during my program, and we were just talking about a few things, and he had just kind of spilled that every Friday, like he doesn't have classes on Fridays. He just dedicates the first half of his Friday morning to grabbing some coffee and just reading some new research that he had found, or he saw an article during the week and he pushed it off. He's like, this is my time to read and to absorb what's going on out there, and built in those windows. Teachers' schedules feel frantic all the time. We don't have enough time to plan. We don't have enough time to actually teach. And suddenly when we have a moment, someone's taking it from us. The school day is a hard time to build in that type of plan. What we have control over is the time outside the school day. Do I want to dedicate my Saturday morning to formerly a Twitter chat? Do I want to dedicate this chunk of time in the afternoon to just making sure that I sit and listen to my kids? Right. It's so my calendar is one, and I never used this one tool, but I know several teachers have used the bullet journaling tool. Right, that's one where you organize and prioritize and then move. You can remove objects from it and move it to other days and other things in the window, but it keeps the journaling process a little bit more narrow-minded and succinct, while also keeping the broad goals in mind for you. But I think for me, for organizational, it cannot be left to me remembering. It just can't anymore. So I have to find a way to organize it, in most cases, right in front of me.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly powerful note. It's almost two different avenues. One is deciding if it's an emergency and having a way to determine that. And the next thing is, how am I organizing it based off of whatever decision is made? And I am the same way as you, where I have to, in some way, shape, or form, document it, because I can't be expected to remember it. And I don't know if we're going to blame age for that, or busyness and scheduled, or whatever, but I swear my memory is useless. Like, if it's not on the calendar, if it's not somewhere where I can remember it, it's gone, and I can't be blamed for it anymore. So I love kind of this reflection that we can have. And for those listening, whether you're here with us live or listening after the fact on, the podcast, or maybe you caught this on the blog and now you're listening later, I think it's really good reflection to kind of have a little bit of that system where you can say, okay, my decision's made. Here's how I'm going to organize that support. Is how we create sustainability, because we can really allow ourselves, when we're in that moment of maybe stress or high intensity, to still function in a way that helps us long term. So I love that note. I think that's fabulous.
And I think one of the things you just brought up again is for each of us, what relieves stress, right? For some, it's reading. For some, it's listening to music. Others, it's getting outside, doing other things. Others, like I said, it's that downtime with family or friends or community. And I think we also need to make sure that we have a strange sense of urgency for stress relief. And like you said, we're getting older. I'm turning 50 this summer. It's kind of crazy to believe that, but I played tennis when I was a kid. My dad taught me when I was young, and I played through high school and with my friends a little bit after college. And then I just haven't for 25 years. And last summer, I decided I want to pick this back up because I need to exercise. I really love the sport. And there's a local club near me. I'm like, I'll just sign up for the summer and play with the open doubles and whatnot stuff. And it was so relaxing and stress relieving for me to just get out and think about nothing else but just playing a game with some people. And I hadn't done it in so long that I had forgotten that. And that's what I want when I consider prioritizing what matters and what to be urgent about and what relieves stress and what's valuable, is that we don't put certain things off for so long that we forget that they were valuable and that they could be stress relieving. They could help me sustain joy and energy toward those other things that I maybe prioritize less. And that was just something that I'm going back this summer and doing it again because of that, you know?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing that. And that is a continual reminder for myself. At least I know I need to hear that stuff, because I have so many things that I know I enjoy, but I feel like the things that serve me are the first that I'm willing to get rid of, because it feels like that's not urgent. And the reality is that those stress relief moments are sometimes the most urgent to keep on your calendar. So lots to go over here. You know, Dennis, we have some questions that our community submitted to us. I'd love for us to brainstorm. I don't know if it'll be relevant to what we've discussed or new ideas, but Olivia pulled some stuff. So are you ready to brainstorm with some educators in our community that want some guidance?
Absolutely. This is that's the fun part. The brainstorming piece of this, bring your questions and let's work on this together. That's the most fun that I have in professional development, which is why I love these district relationships, because we're talking about math and then somebody says something and all of a sudden we're figuring out a way for them to support their kids. And that's what I've loved doing the most. So problem solving is the good part.
I love it. Well, let's get into this. Before we wrap up, if you're not subscribed to the Sustainable Teaching Substack, you're missing out. Every Friday, you'll get an episode plus a free download resource. Subscribe for free over at our Substack. And if you have any questions you want answered in a future episode, drop them over at teachersdeserveit.com by direct messaging the team or emailing Olivia at teachersdeserveit.com. All right, Dennis, I've not seen these questions. There's 3 of them. I'm going to have you choose what order we go in. Pick 1, 2, or 3.
2.
2. Okay. All right. Here's the question. It says, I teach 5th grade and my mom was just diagnosed with dementia. I'm her only family nearby. So I'm handling doctor's appointments, paperwork, checking in on her every day after school. I can't seem to focus at work. I forgot a parent-teacher conference last week. I snapped at a student for no reason. And while I apologized, I still feel horrible. And I can't really take a leave because I need the paycheck. I don't want to quit because I really love my job. And of course, I benefit from the insurance. And I feel like I'm failing my mom and my students all at the same time. I know this is TMI, but how do I keep teaching when it feels like your whole life is falling apart outside of school? And this is submitted by a teacher in, looks like Pennsylvania.
Well, I shouldn't have picked 2 first.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wow, this is really heavy.
No,
First off, Thank you for sharing this question with us. This is what we care about, no matter how heavy or lighthearted. So thank you.
So a couple of hats immediately go on at this point, right? And the first is like, how do we help this person be successful in both of these areas? But the second one is, how do I become a empathetic and sympathetic partner in her success? And then after that, it's, it's like Apollo 13, like when they're up there and they're like, nothing's working, and they throw a bunch of stuff on the table and they're like, how do we make this work here? There's also this, what can we give or take, and what do we have to break to fix something else or something else like that? These hats just start coming together. And I think, first of all, to this person, it's obvious that they are committed to the people that they love. They're committed to their family and they're committed to their students. And it never feels good to feel like you've dropped or not held up to the level of commitment that you wanted for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate to say this, but I'll hate to say it anyway. In my personal opinion, there's a family first world that I think is really important. And so to focus the energy after school on your family, on your mother, don't back away from that to focus on your school day. I hate to say it, but that's one of the reasons why I said I won't send an email after school, and I don't want to assign homework to kids, is because I want you to have your life there. And I would also encourage this person to have a very frank and open conversation with their school leadership about this exact situation and say, I am currently, and I don't know for how long, but currently here. Like, I love working with these kids and I don't want to leave this position. I do intend to take my sick time because that's part of my contract, and I don't intend to hurt kids by doing that. You need to know, because if you can help me by being prepared for sub coverage for this, or we can work something out, then at least we're on the same footing and you're not wondering, why is this person calling out all the time, right? And at the same time, they might be able to help, because I was in a position like that and was able to have a great conversation with the teacher and say, this is what we could probably do. Right? During this time, it's a semester or a quarter break or something else like this. There's a way that we could potentially shift something this year. In fact, we were able to move this person into an interventionist position for the remainder of the school year. And again, didn't want to leave her classroom, but because of that, had more flexibility in the planning and a fewer number of students to work with, that they were able to dedicate their time during the day to more planning and meetings with kids that would have been dedicated outside of school. So don't be afraid to have an open conversation with your school leadership about this. I have always, and many of us have always valued that you care about people in general. It shows how much you care about the school and the kids too. So it's not an easy situation. But then again, there are some things that we can break to fix. There are some easier routes to take now. You might find that as fifth grade, you're probably departmentalized to straight math or math science or something like that, and you're not teaching all 4 subject areas. Are there curricular programs, materials, and resources that you could say, I need to lean on my resources a little bit more than myself, and provide the resource, the facilitation, the reviews, the cycles, everything that they need for kids through the resources that you have in a district, rather than maybe spending the time you would have creating them or hunting them down or trying to be instantly relevant, right? So it's the fact that the question came out is powerful, and I appreciate it, and I think that it shows that it's worthy of multiple conversations. But again, more strength to you while you're taking care of your mom too.
Amazing, Dennis. I love your ideas shared here, and just to re-articulate, I love the emphasis of communicating with leadership, have an honest conversation, human to human. Your boss, regardless of how your relationship is with your leadership, maybe you're new to the building or you've been there for a long time, your leadership cares about their staff. And I think that conversation is so powerful to be able to problem solve. The other thing that comes up for me, just to note, is if there is anything on your to-do list that our team, as the Teachers Deserve It movement, can take off your plate, that is a huge element that we love doing. For example, an educator in December had asked for emergency sub plans, and we put together an entire collection, which all of you can go grab for free over in our Learning Hub, all these different emergency
Mhm.
lesson plans. They work for all different grade levels. You just kind of like print and go. And maybe that's something to relieve some guilt or stress. You just kind of always have that. Like that way, when something comes up, you know at least the students are doing something valuable. It's already prepped for you. You don't have to do any work. Like those little kind of like leaning on your resources is the perfect example that you shared. So
Yeah. And that's not little at all. I mean, think about it. We've all said like it's harder to be out of school than to be there because of all the planning we have to do and then all the recovery we have to do back. So that's big to be able to say, here's something that you can just say, I can let go, like I said, of planning and thinking about this. I can take care of what's important to me because I have this to put into place. So that's really strong.
And that's huge. And that's already prepped for you. Feel free to go grab that in our Learning Hub. If you need a direct link, let me know. All right. So we start with a really tough one.
Yeah, thanks.
We got 2 others. Do you want to go with 1 or 3?
I feel like 1.
Okay. I hope this is easier on us, but we'll see. I left teaching 4 years ago to stay home with kids. Now I'm back and everything has changed. New curriculum, new technology, new behaviors that I honestly have never seen before. I feel like I used to be good at this. I had a reputation. Now I'm in my old building feeling like a first-year teacher all over again. And I'm not sure how to build back up my confidence. Any suggestions on how I could be doing that to help me in a position I know I love?
Wow, that one's not as hard, but it
That is
definitely is
hard.
interesting. It is hard. And so here is a very interesting point about that. A lot of us would recognize that year to year, teaching is different, right? The students that are in front of us, when anything can happen, a 4-year gap might spread that out a little bit, but year to year, you shouldn't necessarily be doing the exact same thing you did before because you have a whole new world in front of you. But when there's a big gap, for lack of a better metaphor, I like to consider the first part of your teaching, you've now divorced, right? It's over. Like that relationship is done and it's not going to be repaired. You're in your second marriage now, right? You have a new relationship with a new person. The school is a new person. It's a new, they have new strengths, new weaknesses. They have new characteristics. Get to know it. Right. You really need to get to build your confidence, not by trying to bring the old version of you from your old relationship to this new person, but by getting to know who you are with this new person. We're all different with different people. I'm different when I'm teaching students than I am when I'm talking to my own kids. And I think the time for what is my new relationship with this building like is now. And you'll build your confidence because like a good relationship, that building wants you there. Like they want you to be a part of their relationship. So feel welcome and look for the characteristics and the strengths and the good things there and the things that you bring to help kind of complete that.
So good. There's so many wins there to celebrate. So like taking the opportunity to see the small wins in this new relationship is so powerful. Stick with us as we wrap up our conversation here to make sure that you connect with Denis.
Sustainable Teaching is brought to you by Teachers Deserve It, the professional development company built on one belief. Teaching shouldn't cost you your weekends, your health, or your love for this work. Learn more at teachersdeserveit.com.
As we wrap up our conversation here, I'm so excited for all of us to connect with Denis, add him to your network. He has a lot of projects that he hasn't even mentioned. They're happening behind the scenes that I want to make sure you all are able to see when they are released to the world. So Denis, how can our community here stay connected to you?
Honestly, the easiest way is to visit my website, which is just my name, DenisSheeran.com. My email is literally Denis@DenisSheeran.com. If you wanted to try to connect with me specifically or directly. I pulled back on some of the blog posts recently, and I've pulled back a little bit on the outward focus, like I said, and I'm interested in getting back into that as well. So it'd be good to see who is interested in having a conversation with me where. That's the same way you can connect with me if you are interested in bringing me to your school district for any professional development or conversations, virtual or in person. But I'm excited again to kind of rekindle my new relationship with the public space a little bit more. And that's how you can find me anytime.
So fabulous. And friends, truly, I cannot sing, Denis Sheeran's more. Like he is the best guy, so real when you're able to talk to him. And if you have any opportunity to bring him out to your school, I mean, talk about bringing just a good-hearted educator to your teachers that wants nothing more than for everyone to be successful. So please feel free to reach out to him. And if you have any issues, connect with our team and we'll get you connected. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I know that we could have talked for hours, so I appreciate you tackling the conversation and the questions we threw at you. It was such a joy.
Well, and thanks for having me and boosting my ego a little bit. So I've felt good today, but yeah, let's find those hours.
Yeah, so good. Friends, stick with us with all of our episodes for the Sustainable Teaching Podcast.
Sustainable teaching. I can lead and still